What's Agentic AI?
So Agentic AI is basically a step further from your traditional LLM. So it basically splits tasks by agents. So think of writing a dissertation. LLM could, through a prompt, produce some text. An Agentic AI system you'd put a prompt in to write a dissertation, then they have a managing agent which will split the task into different other agents. So a research agent, a drafting agent. They would all be then managed by other agents, etc., etc. So it basically is like having a team of people, I think in layman's terms, working under you.
This is the Greenwich Means Business Podcast. Welcome to the Greenwich Means Business Podcast. My name is Nataly and I am your host. And today I am joined by Octavio, who is a very renowned doctor, professor, lecturer, all of it at the University of Greenwich. So, Octavio.
Not a professor yet, I might add. But I'm very happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And tell us a bit about yourself. What brings you to Greenwich? Where did you start your journey in marketing? And what brought you here?
Gosh, I fell to marketing by accident. I suspect this is something that happens to a lot of people. I did psychology in my undergrad. Then I got a very generalist job in a soft drinks factory in Latin America. And part of that purview included researching customers. And then I got brought in because I was researching customers into doing some of their marketing. So much more traditional, think TV spots, radio, print. Then I realized I missed the UK. And I went to London, got a job in...
What do you mean by you missed the UK?
Well, I did my undergrad in Scotland. So I really enjoyed it. And I just, I spent a couple of years in LATAM. And I missed it. I missed the UK. I thought, well, I'll go back and work, in London for a bit. I had a lot of friends from uni that were there. And I applied to a job that was a project management job where 60% of it was marketing essentially. So again, fell into it by accident. And then I was introduced to the wonderful world of digital marketing. But after, I think, 3-4 years in that job, I realized, okay, I don't really have a business degree, so I might as well get an MBA, go back to uni. And then when I went back to uni, I realized, why did I ever leave? I love this. So I stayed for a PhD, and now here we are.
So what do you teach at the University of Greenwich?
A broad range of things. I specialize in consumer behavior. I also teach classes in digital marketing, and I am the module leader for a dissertation, as you might well know.
What's your favorite thing? Yes, dissertation. Don't even get me started. As a third-year student, if you're doing marketing, you're going to have Octavio, and he's amazing, specifically in qualitative research.
Yes, I'm a qualitative researcher. We have a wonderful colleague doing the quant element.
Do you know what? Since we're here, how about you just quickly explain what the difference is between qualitative and quantitative? Like in 5-10 words,
In 5-10 words. Well, I mean, the easiest way to think about it is qualitative looks for meaning in words, quantitative looks for meaning in numbers. So I think that is, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it.
Yeah, what we would be looking for without going into any more in-depth or technical.
So what's your favorite thing to teach? Like whether it be a topic or, I don't know, maybe even just like a module. Like what's your one thing that you genuinely enjoy and have a passion for teaching?
I think I love teaching in general. This is why I stayed in academia and why I did a PhD. I didn't really think I was even going to go back. I was going to be an academic during my PhD until I started teaching. So I love being in a classroom. If you press me, anything to do with consumer behavior is really nice. I love discussing culture, and I often see students think about things differently. I enjoy taking you guys through the dissertation as well. I love the research element of it. I can't say I have a favorite. Digital can be fun. I guess it also depends on the cohort. Every cohort is different, and there's a different vibe in the classroom. So cohorts that are really into whatever you're teaching them, you feed off that energy and you tend to enjoy it even more.
Okay. Do you know what? To get things a bit excited, I want you to debunk a couple of marketing myths.
Sure.
Okay, let's come up with some. The very first one I'm going to come up with is something that I always get from a lot of different people that ask me. Is marketing just posting stuff on Instagram?
I really hate it when people say that.
We do.
Oh, you do marketing, so you're social media expert. It's such a small, reductive part of what marketing is, and it frustrates both marketeers and academics and, I guess students as well, because you guys go through a lot of different courses. Marketeers believe that marketing envelops everything that a company produces, all the way to how a consumer interacts with a company. So, we talk about the 4 Ps and the 7 Ps, but essentially, marketeers are responsible for looking and delivering consumer needs. So this is way beyond even just the advertising. It's understanding the consumers, product design, looking at the best way to sell something or how to interact with whoever is buying it, even sometimes finding whoever might be interested in a product. In an ideal world, you do research and then design a product, but sometimes for marketeers, they get landed in a job, as was my case, and in a company where they didn't really know who their target audience was, and part of your job was to find it, which was stressful and exhilarating. It's not to say that digital and particularly social media is not a really important part of how people communicate and therefore what a marketeer should know. But if all you do or all you know is posting stuff on social media, this is not even 1% of what you should be understanding as a marketeer.
Okay, now we're going to look at what some of you guys asked about marketing and what sort of things we can debunk. So, good marketing can fix a bad product.
No, it cannot. A bad product that doesn't fit consumer needs is never going to work, or is very unlikely to work. I guess it depends why the product is bad. It could be that you're just not putting it to the right audience. So there are examples of products that change target audience and then they become successful. But if the product cannot find its audience, marketeers can fundamentally uncover needs that the consumer has, and attach them to products or services, but they cannot create needs that wouldn't normally exist or fix products that don't cater to them.
Marketing is manipulation.
It is not manipulation. Marketing is about uncovering needs that the consumer already has. They might not know it in the context of that product. It's about obviously putting your best foot forward in the context of promoting anything. But ultimately, marketeers shouldn't lie. They shouldn't be disingenuous. It's not something that is correct or ethical or even positive, because as soon as a consumer feels that you've manipulated them into anything against their will or without giving them the correct information, you're going to lose that consumer, and potentially even worse. So there's absolutely no point in attempting to manipulate consumers.
Okay, Octavio, I really want to talk about AI now and how everything is changing within the marketing world, because I feel like a lot of students, they come to university and they're scared that the degrees that they're learning, it's actually not as up to date. And I can be living proof, it is definitely up to date. But can you talk a little bit about how the degree is always changing in marketing and how we're keeping up to date with trends and what employers are looking for? Yeah.
Gosh. So these are two or separate issues, whether, what is changing and how we keep up to date. In terms of keeping up to date, we have to, as lecturers, particularly those of us that enjoy digital marketing and look into that, we have to keep up with any new trends. I enjoy AI in my digital marketing course. I encourage its use. And I design my assessments around the use of AI, because I think it's important that students come out of their degree knowing those skills. I have a forthcoming article on Agentic AI, which is what is coming down the pipeline.
What's Agentic AI?
So Agentic AI is basically a step further from your traditional LLM. So it basically splits tasks by agents, which do bits of that particular task. So think of, writing a dissertation. LLM could, through a prompt, produce some text. An agentic AI system you'd put a prompt in to write a dissertation, then they have a managing agent which would split the task into different other agents. So a research agent, a drafting agent, an agent to do with, setting up an ethical application form. They would all be then managed by other agents, et cetera, et cetera. So it basically is like having a team of people, I think in layman's terms, working under you. So that obviously poses a lot of problems and a lot of opportunities for academics. It poses a lot of problems, but for marketeers, it poses a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. So back to the question, what do you think is one way that we're keeping up to date, like our degrees at the University of Greenwich?
So we need to always have links with industry. So in the context of the program I lead, which is the MA in Marketing Management, we have accreditations with the CIM, with the IDM, with the EFMD. All of those require us to constantly keep up to date with the latest work. We're also very research active, so we're constantly researching what is happening, the new things in terms of what is coming down the pipeline. Again, this agentic AI, which is not something that it may be in the mainstream yet, but it will be. We also have a lot of our staff that comes from a practitioner's background, and that always helps to then bring that experience into the classroom and have that good balance between the academic rigor of anything that we're teaching, but also the practical application. Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
That covers it. But actually, when you were talking, I kind of came up with a question, right? It's a bit deep. I want to ask you, how do you feel like that so I want you to explain a bit about your background, like where you were born and like where you lived majority of your life. And then I want to ask you how that gives you an edge on how you see marketing and whether like your background makes you see marketing in a different way.
Interesting. So that's a long question, actually, a long answer, sorry. So I was born in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and I lived all over the Americas and Spain. So by the time I was 15, I'd lived in Uruguay, Chile, Miami, Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona, Leeds.
Leeds?
Yes, Leeds.
Just stuff so random.
Yeah, and then I got sent to boarding school in North Yorkshire here in the UK. And then my family kept on moving, so I always, every summer was a different place. I continued into Brazil, Chile again. And my family is now settled in southern Spain. But I think growing up, one of the biggest shocks I had was how different culture is. And as a matter of fact, what I did for my PhD was study culture, essentially, the consumer culture theory. But challenging assumptions that people take for granted, which is something that you get when you move somewhere else. And this element of trying to understand these assumptions and understand different contexts, I think gives all marketeers an edge. Even if you've never moved, it is something that you need to consider. So I always urge marketeers to have as much contact with different groups of people as is possible, because you will essentially be asked to put yourself in their shoes and try to understand them if you're ever going to be successful at essentially selling anything to a target audience.
That is a beautiful answer. Thank you. So which country, this is a bit of a funny question, but which country would you move to now? Like if they said tomorrow you have to go and migrate there, where would you go?
I mean, I really like London. I think London,
What do you like about, no offense to the people of London, but what do you like about London?
Well, London, I think, is a natural home for anyone with an international upbringing. I think, I have my kids here, and whilst obviously they travel, and I love traveling, but you can see the world here. So you have so much international exposure just by the virtue of being in such a cosmopolitan city. And I love that. I love that, Londoner can be anyone I consider myself a Londoner, even though I was born here. And that's something really wonderful. Not everywhere has that. Whilst there are a lot of cosmopolitan cities in the world. Yeah. If you ask me where to travel, anywhere East Asia, I enjoy. I've been to Japan several times and I love it. I don't know if I would live there though.
Japan?
Yes, I think it's maybe culturally a bit too
it's very
rigorous.
Different.
For me. But yeah.
So do you think that London would be a good place to come and study at?
Again, it's probably one of the best places in the world. Not just because of the quality of the universities here, but again, for that exposure to different people. In what you get in London in terms of just meeting people from different backgrounds, nationalities, ways of thinking, you don't really get in a lot of places. You must have seen across your degree how many different people you meet.
Americans, Polish people, all over the world.
Yeah. So it's and that's just in the university. You go anywhere in London and you're going to be exposed to that. And I think for a marketeer, that takes away a lot of assumptions one might have, and that's a good thing.
I agree with that. I think for my dissertation, literally, I interviewed 12 people. Can't give names, obviously, but everyone was from a different background. There wasn't one person that had the same background. And at the end, I looked back at all of the people that I interviewed, and I realized that nobody shared the same cultural background. Everybody was different, and I think I've never done that before. 12 people as well. I don't know, it's something I've never really seen before. But Octavio, I believe that you have created a new program, MA Marketing?
I mean, I was part of the redesign of that. So the MA in marketing management.
Okay.
Yep, so
do you want to tell our audience what this is about?
So this is a program that takes students who might not have a background in marketing into a marketing career. It gives them all the skills they need to succeed within the field. It covers all broad areas of marketing, all the way from the much more analytical elements that are associated with digital, with business analytics, down to the more creative ones. It's got pathways to better suit those interests, marketeers. And I've mentioned this before, but they exist on a spectrum of creativity and analysis, right, and analytics and numbers. And both are needed, but the program lets students, and the program gives both to students, but it also lets them specialize in an area that they might be more interested in. Again, it's accredited by several institutions, particularly it's the only one for now in GBS, which is EFMD accredited, which is a very, very both prestigious but also difficult qualification to achieve, and it means that the program is examined on a very granular level on how well we update our things for for coming trends, how well we connect with industry, how rigorous our research and our academic angle is, how well we work with alumni, so how international we are, what opportunities our students have, which is great because it allows us to always keep improving, progressing, and ensuring that whoever takes that program has the best possible opportunity.
So I'm a marketing and brand management student, undergraduate level. If I was to join the master level, what do you think would be something that I would really, would you think that there would be like a pattern of that I'm like re-seeing at master level, but I'm digging deeper into? That's a bit of a tricky one, but what do you think?
So for master's degrees, I think it's important to know what career you want to get into, and again, if you are already studying marketing and you want to study a marketing specific master's, think about the job title that you would want. What you want to be involved in. Do you want to focus on a particular area, for example, on branding? Do you want to go into consumer research? So for students wanting to join marketing in general, an MA like marketing management might be very good. If you want to specialize in another area because you already have an extensive background in marketing, you might enjoy the MA as well, but you might want to go for a master's degree that might be slightly more specialized in a particular area.
Okay, let's do a little bit of private advice now. So if I wanted to get a job in like creative marketing, but maybe more like creative direction, and like that's the end goal for me really, what would be my next step? I mean, obviously some people mostly would say, go straight into the job market. But if I wanted to like maybe do a master, what sort of master would I be doing? Would the master that you're offering be good?
Yeah, we have a module specifically for that, a whole track on advertising, and within that they have creative direction as a module, as a matter of fact. We have lovely stuff that teaches it, all of them with links to industry, particularly in the case of one of our staff, the luxury industry, and our other member staff on that particular module has 30 years of advertising experience under his belt. So they are, there are relevant modules there. I think in general with any sort of career path, if masters can work, but a master's itself is not the be all and end all of you need to make sure that you take all those opportunities around the master. So just having a degree, just as having a degree from a university or an undergrad or a postgrad can get you opportunities. You need to also take them, both what is done extracurricularly, but also extra opportunities that your program might offer. I think that's really important. And start reaching out to employers. Start reaching out to people that have gone through the career. If your lecturers come from a practical and professional background, talk to them as well, how they got into it. Could be by accident like I did, or it could be that they were slightly more focused in what they wanted to, in where they wanted to go.
Thank you, Octavio. That's great advice. So with the rise of AI, I was wondering, there's been this talk about how marketing should become eventually the highest grossing job by like 2027, I think. And that's due to the fact that apparently, people can now build products, but not everybody knows how to market, like really do marketing. So essentially marketing is meant to become more valuable. What do you think of that? Especially like with the rise of AI, like is some points contradicting one another?
I'm not sure about the highest paid profession, but I hope it does. And again, in general, any profession that brings revenue to a company tends to be very well rewarded. That sort of commercial instinct. AI is making a lot of stuff easier, both for marketeers and for in the case of tech, people coding, and there's a lot of technical skills that slightly lose the premium that they had, which I believe is of a benefit to marketeers, because then what stays is the fundamentals. So I always tell students, if you're looking for a job in marketing, employers will look, I think relatively wrongly, they will look at the amount of hard skills you have. Oh, do you know how to use AI to create this? Or do you know how to use whatever, Adobe, or, which they're all great, but anyone can learn how to do that. But having a solid commercial sense, solid understanding of consumers, their behavior, solid understanding of marketing principles is something that will eventually win out over anything else, because the tools will change, and the tools will change to make things easier for everyone. It's unlikely that AI will make it more difficult for marketeers to market, right? So it's important to absolutely keep up to date with these tools, but also to ensure that you don't lose sight of what makes a marketeer good, which is essentially their understanding of marketing principles and people.
I think I agree with that. To wrap things up, I want you to give a piece of advice to a student watching this. So to set the scene, imagine you're a student who is thinking about studying marketing, but they don't really know if they want to study marketing. What would you recommend them? What would you recommend perhaps your 21 or 18-year-old self?
What would I recommend to my 18-year-old self? I think to students that are studying, that want to study marketing, it often offers a career path where you can be both creative and also have a career out of it. There are a lot of degrees where students don't really end up working in that field. So if you are interested in that, that is something that absolutely can get you a career that is highly paid and I think a lot of fun. As to what I would tell my 18-year-old self, probably knuckle down and get through university, because it's going to be 4 years of a lot of work. Yeah.
Thank you. I have one tiny little question to ask you as well. Can you please tell our students that marketing is not a Mickey Mouse degree?
Absolutely not. I mean, again, there is a job that is aligned to this degree, right? That is highly paid, and that is, and like, again, other degrees, we see our students go to top companies to work in marketing. We've had students, work all over the place, the big conglomerates like, BMW, the way to more up and coming,
F1.
but still big, TikTok, we
Amazon.
Amazon, yeah. So I feel like it's probably one of the more grounded and applied degrees that you can do, because it directly deals with a professional occupation within, within business.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Octavio. That was a very insightful, amazing conversation. I'm walking away from this conversation feeling much better about my life and feeling much more secure in my future, fingers crossed. And I hope that you guys are as well. Thank you for watching. That was the Greenwich Means Business podcast. And we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share and tell other people. And in the comments, let us know what you would like us to talk about next. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Remember to subscribe to never miss an episode. Thank you guys for listening.